So, a dwarf, one of the bugbears who killed the dwarf's friend, a gnoll, who the bugbear used to bully around, a magician, one of the ones who captured the dwarf to begin with, and the 4 adventurers who defeated the magicians, the bugbears, and the gnolls. This ought to be a fun road trip. Hello everyone, I'm Father Aaron. Welcome to The Dungeon Minister! So, this episode is sort of a hinge episode. It was a session of play that was kind of a pickup session. We had an hour or two to kill and some details to mop up, and I thought, hey, you know what? Let's just play the game. So, this isn't going to be, full of adventure and combat and stuff like that. It is role-playing heavy. Very heavy on the roleplay. As you may recall from the last episode, the adventurers are making their way east on the ancient track through the forest. The overgrown track that, they can barely follow, but is recognizable among the woods. They're following that track back to the road which goes from Honeywood and curves down to Kilmarnock. Kilmarnock being their destination. And they're going there because Byrion, the dwarf, wants to see the Count of Kilmarnock. He has been sent. Originally, he and 5 other dwarves, who were variously killed, captured, and ran off to who knows where. He and those 5 other dwarves were sent by the Dwarven King to seek the assistance of the humans. He and a companion were captured by 3 wizards, 3 magic users, evil magic users, 2 of whom, during a battle with the PCs, the party fled. The 3rd, Murhaaja, was captured in a web. And here I should correct my finish. It's not Murhaaja, it's Murhaaja. Murhaaja. I don't know how to finish this finish. Anyway, the 3rd one is a captive, and they're bringing him along. During the battle, one bugbear was charmed, they've named him Larry, and they met Chumly. They reunited with Chumly, and Gnoll they go way back with, whom Touchberry once tried to teach math, for some reason. So anyway, this motley crew is setting off east toward the road that leads to Kilmarnock. They're going to bring the dwarf down there. That was where he was bound when he was captured. They want to make sure he gets there safely. They also figure that Kilmarnock would be a better place to imprison Murhaaja, the big guy. A better place to imprison him than little Honeywood. Honeywood, can barely contain Garrick, really. Well, we'll untie it. Here. There. Better? Good. Quit complaining. Anyway, certainly Count Kilmarnock will have better facilities for holding such a dangerous individual, so they're going to take him down there as well. They also are pretty sure that he should face some justice for, an unprovoked attack. Well, okay, not a completely unprovoked attack. They did burn his building down, but a relatively unprovoked attack with lightning bolt. So anyway, they figure he should face some justice, and they're pretty sure he's up to no good, having captured these dwarves, etc. There's a lot of shady business going on, much more than they realize. So they're on their way. This is not a friendly outing, okay? Here is the dwarf who is very upset with the bugbears, who just the day previous killed his friend, right? So Byrion is really upset with the bugbears. The gnoll is not charmed, remember. He's just a friendly gnoll, and you don't know how far that friendship will go. Gnolls are probably not terribly trustworthy, but he seems okay. But he had been bullied by the bugbears, the Larry among them, right? And the other bugbears, they don't know where they might be. And here's Murhaaja, the big guy, who's, just grouchy, grumbling, angry, fierce. He's a brutal individual, and he never stops trying to escape. Not for 1 second does he stop trying to escape from the ropes they have him in. So this is going to be a fun trip. And this is exactly what the players are thinking when they decide to part from Larry and Chumly. Now, back at the camp, the magic users and bugbears and gnolls had a camp that they were traveling with. Back at the camp, they had taken two of the tents. They'd taken the bugbear tent and they'd taken the gnoll tent. Why? Why they didn't take the really fancy magic user tent, which held itself up without a pole, which didn't need any ropes to hook it into the ground, which would just set up with a magical command. I don't know. I mean, they didn't know what the command was, but they could have figured it out at some point. They didn't even think about taking the tent, which surprised the heck out of me, but all right. I suppose it is sort of garish. It would really show up. It would make it hard to sneak around. But they did take Chumley's tent, the gnoll tent, and they took the bugbear tent as well. So they're packing those, and the bugbear's carrying stuff, and the gnoll's carrying stuff. They're packing all that along with them. They decide at this point, we need to break this little party up, because not only is there a lot of internal tension going on, and just for the first few miles of it, there's arguments already and fighting, and the dwarf keeps saying, "Can we just kill them? Can we just kill them?" Right? So nothing good is coming out of this. So the party decides, look, we are going to try to separate this. Now, you might know that a charmed creature wants to stay with his friend, right? Friend! Oh man, is he still out there? Anyway, a charmed creature wants to stay with his friends, and so it's going to be tough to separate him. This is why Touchberry doesn't like it when Bob Johnny charms someone, because now they've got this baggage, they've got this person, this creature following them, whom they kind of want to kill, and they know that once the charm breaks, he'll want to kill them, but he's helpful and useful, and he's being friendly at the moment. So how are they going to do this? They decide what they'll do is try to convince Larry that his other friends, the three bugbears that ran away, the sleeping bugbear, the bugbear in the net, in the web, who's still caught up in the web, they're all going to need him. So what he should do is search for the runaways and go back and get his friends. And he's got the tent. They can live in the tent. They can have a wild time out here in the forest. Are they setting themselves up for trouble in the future when this charm wears off and the bugbear comes looking in anger for the person who charmed him? Yeah, potentially. But they're not too worried about it. They just want to get rid of him right now. So this is what they put into place. They begin trying to convince him to leave, and it takes a while, and we role play it through, your friend, your buddy, you want to stay with buddy, We role play it out, and it's funny, and people are laughing, and it's just goofy. But eventually they say, yeah, okay, they convince him, and they put it in such a way that, we have to go down to Kilmarnock, and, the people in Kilmarnock, they won't like to see a bugbear down there. They have anti-bugbear prejudices. The dwarf growling the whole time. You might not want to come with us. Oh, yeah, people know like bugbear, right? Like missing the point that they don't like them because they kill everybody. Anyway, so they finally convince him, you stay here. On our way back up, we'll find you, right? We'll come back down this way again and we'll find you. They're never going to see him again, not if they can help it. So they get Larry off their back. Chumly is a little harder because his affection is genuine. Affection's probably the wrong word. You feed a dog and he'll come with you, right? It's relatively genuine, and he's enjoying the math lessons with Touchberry, who resumes the math lessons and starts to teach him, multiplication and things. This mirrors the fact that since the last time we met Chumly, Touchberry's player has learned more math, right? I mean, he's 10, so he's learning more math, and so he's teaching more math. Anyway, this becomes a bit more difficult to separate, but eventually they convince Chumly as well that a gnoll going down into a human capital is going to be really dicey, really dangerous. We probably can't do that. So they ditch him as well in the forest, a long way from where Larry is. They take Chumly further with them, but they ditch him in the forest as well, all within the first day. And again, this is all just role play stuff, right? Some roles for reaction, but mostly I'm just letting it play out at the table. That night, they make camp with their own tent, and nothing happens. I roll for any wandering monsters over the evening, but nothing comes up, and so they continue. The next day, I'm wondering, are we going to have an encounter with the centaurs? I'll leave it to the dice, but I'm going to give an increased chance because the centaurs patrol this road. But nothing happens. I roll it and I avoid the number. I do later, once we've kind of gotten past the area where the centaurs are, later in the day, they're getting ready to camp actually, I roll up an encounter. It's like, okay, so if they're going to face something, well, what will they face, right? Oh, okay. Well, that ought not be too bad. I hold the encounter a little bit until they are getting ready to set up, because they're going to go off the road for that. They don't want to be on the literal road in case someone comes through in the night and it's, one of the more hostile creatures. So they go off the road a little bit and set up camp. And I say, as you do so, you're clearing away, you're kicking sticks out of the way, removing stones so that you've got a nice place to set up the tent. As you're doing this, you hear a rustling sound. Is there something in the brush? Is there something moving? It's whatever it is low and fast and hard to see, and strike! A giant rattler has lunged out of the brush and attacked. I'd like to tell you that this was some epic combat, that this was just ferocious and yeah. The initial strike misses, and this party is well past having any trouble with a giant rattlesnake. This thing is so dead so fast. I mean, none of the party members have weapons ready, right? They were setting up camp. But it doesn't take Bob Johnny any time at all to cast Magic Missile. And 3 of them sink into this thing, and he does like a ridiculous amount of damage. The others don't even have a chance to get their weapons out, right? So, well, that was fun. Actually, I want to say it was fun. And it was fun because it was this moment of mastery, right? The snake came out, and I'm describing it, the huge body uncoils and lurches in and strikes at Touchberry. You can see its wicked fangs dripping venom, right? They're getting the juice of this encounter, and then they deal with it, right? And although there was a bit of a letdown in terms of it didn't turn out to be a difficult encounter, there was this, hey, we can handle ourselves, right? They're kind of realizing that as they increase in levels, their abilities are increasing too. Now, I also want to mention, as they are traveling, they are studying Murhaaja's spellbook, and they are gaining some new spells, Lightning Bolt among them. Now, there's some discussion. Should we copy it into our book? Should we each copy it into our book? It won't disappear like a spell scroll, but should we copy it into our book, or should we just use this third spellbook? I tell them, you're not going to be able to copy it into your book until you get home to your teacher and he provides you with a special inks that will properly copy it. They haven't been instructed in the spell yet, right? They could copy it down, but there are intricacies and there's some information missing. But they have access to it, right? So that's pretty cool. The next morning is just a short half day's travel and they reach Kilmarnock. And it's fun. We talk about the city as you approach and the outbuildings, the outskirts of the city. You approach those and in you go and you start to see a bustle. You're seeing more people on the roads and things like that. And then you come to the walls and there they are towering up. And farmers are going in and out. And merchants are going in and out. There's guards on the walls. And they see you approaching with a man tied up. They're not letting you in like that. You're not just going to waltz into the city that way. So the guard on the wall shouts down to one on the ground, and the one on the ground steps out to intercept you. What are you doing with this man? Why is he your prisoner? What has he done? Well, let me tell you the story. At this point, Murhaaja does not make his life any easier by cursing at the guard and insisting he go free and, death to Kilmarnock sort of stuff, right? He's not the smartest of the wizards. The guard, understandably, does not react well to this, and so asks more information. The party begins to tell the story back. This is always a good way to get your party to, to sum things up, to find out from their perspective what happened. What do they know? What do they intuit? And they intuit quite a bit. They have figured that these magic users must be associated with Evalio. How they figured that out, I think just proximity, right? But they've figured that there's something going on. And they really want to take him to the Count, right? Hearing all of this, hearing that these dwarves were assaulted and captured and killed, hearing that they were in league with bugbears, etc., the guard says this sounds like a matter for the Count, or at least for Sandor Clegane. This is not a matter for a guard at the wall to take care of, right? So He calls more guards down, and 4 guards surround them and escort them through the city. Touchberry chafes at this for 2 reasons. 1, it's embarrassing. It makes him look like a prisoner. And 2, they walk right past the pub. And he's like, oh, God, I'm really hungry, guys. Could we... just some wine, maybe? Oh, well. Into the great square of Kilmarnock they walk, and to the Count's palace. There's the Count's keep palace. It's a sort of fortified palace. It has on the front of it this wooden tower, which is pushed away or burned away in case of attack, and so therefore you can't get in because the entrance is on the first floor for the British, second floor for North Americans. At any rate, there's a long line of people coming down through this wooden outer tower. But the guards march right past them, skipping the line, right? These are all the people who are coming with petitions for the Count, land disputes and arguments with other merchants and things like that. So they skip the line there, and they come in as the Count is settling a property dispute. There's a slice of property that 2 owners both claim, and he's tearing his hair out, which I can't do with his haircut. But anyway, he's tearing his hair out, trying to get them to agree on something. Finally, he just orders an edict. That's it. This is where the boundary is. I don't want to hear about it anymore. They grudgingly leave, and the soldiers step forward and introduce the case. These individuals arrived at our wall, my lord, and they have a prisoner, and they have a dwarf with them who is seeking an audience with you, and they have a story to tell. And, again, I have them rehash it. I tell them to do it in short form, don't give you all the gory details, but what are you going to tell the Count? What important parts are you going to tell the Count, right? Of course, before they get to that, the dwarf rushes up and bows and says, Byrion, son of Tyrion, at your service. Stole that from Tolkien. Byrion, son of Tyrion, at your service. I have been sent, my lord, from the Dwarven Kingdom. The Dwarven King himself has sent me to seek your aid. He asks that our bonds of friendship be renewed now in our time of need. And he relates to the Count that the hills, the mountains around the Dwarven stronghold are just filling up with goblins. It's just becoming unmanageable for the dwarves, and worse things are coming down. He hears tell of werewolves. Ooh. The player's ears perk up. He hears tell of giants. Oh, dear. And Byrion requests troops. He is asking for military aid. Oh, well. The Count gets quiet and thoughtful, brooding even, and then says, I cannot send my soldiers to you. I am sorry, I would normally, but I cannot. We have troubles of our own here. Again, the players, their ears perk up. What's happening now? They knew that there was this sort of brewing civil war between the Count and the King, and perhaps the Vale of the Blade is involved, perhaps the Baron rather of Cormac is involved. They knew that everything was very tense in this region, but what's happening now? They don't ask because they understand protocol, but they're very curious. The dwarf presses his case. Please, my lord, our kingdom is beset, and once we fall, the Shire will be next, and then the North March. Kilmarnock will burn. Well, that's pretty dire, but he said something there which grabbed the Count's attention. The Shire. Indeed, and he turns to Touchberry, as if Touchberry knows. Does the Shire have an army worth sending? Now, the Count kinda already knows this. I mean, he's a power broker. He has to know who his neighbors are. But he asks Touchberry for a reason. Touchberry, a bit of local pride. Yes, the halflings can fight. They'll fight goblins anywhere. We already have when they invaded the Shire, right? And they tell the story of the Battle of the Shire, right? When the goblin raiding party had come down and they mounted a pretty serious fight against them. This is what the Count wanted to hear. Excellent. Master Dwarf, I cannot help you with soldiers, but I can help you with equipment. And he promises to send 1,000 short swords, 1,000 short bows, and 1,000 quivers of arrows. This is a major commitment. This is a lot of equipment coming out of here. The Count has kind of been building up an armory. He's kind of been preparing for this. And this is an insight that the players notice, that he's got this just to hand. He can just promise this. what kind of an arsenal has he built up, right? He's got something in mind. Anyway, he promises this equipment to the Shire, and he says, will you, Touchberry, will you go and lead this delegation? Will you bring these gifts to the Shire? And along with Byrion the dwarf, ask on my behalf that they assist the Dwarven Kingdom. So Touchberry's like, me? Yeah, of course. And the PC's like, well, yeah, let's go. That'd be fabulous, right? And Touchberry's been wanting to go back to the Shire for a long time. He's got a girlfriend there. He kind of wants to get married. Role play. During the role play, now they tell their own story to the Count, and they introduce Murhaaja. And Murhaaja has nothing good to say about the Count, or the Count's mother, or the matrimonial situation of the Count's mother and father. This is not the way to win friends or influence people, but this is his style. The Count begins to grill Murhaaja. He begins to push him, press him, and finally, Murhaaja blurts out,
"My master will have you! My master will slay you!"
"Oh, really? And who is your master?"
"My master is the heir to the Veil of the Blade."
"I think not. He's a good friend of mine."
"Not the pretender who has usurped the barony. No, the true heir of the Veil of the Blade. My master, Bargle."
Yeah. Dun dun dun, indeed. Bargle. Bargle? The heir of the Veil of the Blade? What? The Count leans back. I was afraid of this. Whoa, what? You knew about this? Yes, an ancient family feud. Bargle is the heir to his family's bitterness, that is all. The story is convoluted and frankly stupid. Bargle has no more claim on the barony of the Veil of the Blade than I have to be king of the kobolds.
Mine!
No. But he is a serious individual and seriously dangerous. If these three are his students, then he has begun training others. We have a serious enemy to contend with. Great, so at least we know who we're fighting. And Murhaaja is dragged off to a jail cell screaming and hollering and complaining, after having given up as much information as he's willing to give up, or even knows, for that matter. The Count then turns back to the party and says, "Very good. You will leave in 2 days. I need some time to get the supplies together, get them loaded into wagons. You will leave in 2 days, bringing a gift to the Shire. And hopefully they take the gift and join in the fight to help our friends the dwarves. Meanwhile, you have the good wishes and the prayers of all humans. May your fight be successful." Byrion is sort of like, well, I came for human warriors and I'm getting halflings. That ain't great, right? The dwarves don't really think the halflings are up to snuff. They'll find out. All right, off they go. They're going to stay at a local inn, the Leather Tankard, which is their favorite, and cool their heels until it's time to go. There is a little bit more role play as they go shopping, because in order to convince Touchberry to do some things, Fleetwood has been buying him off with the offer of flasks of oil. I'll buy you 10 flasks of oil if you do this, right? This is happening at the table, and this is a brothers kind of dynamic that's going on, right? It has nothing to do with Touchberry and Fleetwood. It has to do with two brothers playing a game together, and one of them sort of blackmailing the other. I don't know what, because he's got enough money in-game. He's got plenty of gold pieces. He could buy his own oil. There's no reason, right? But he's just doing it. So, fine. Now Touchberry he's got a bandolier of oil and a belt full of flasks of oil, right? He's ready for arson. And then, to sort of rub salt in that wound, and all the money that Fleetwood has just spent on oil, Touchberry spends 200 gold pieces on food. And I'm telling them like this, that's a ridiculous amount. You can get your room and your food for way less than that, for a few gold pieces, right? No, he insists on spending 200 gold pieces on food, and even a halfling can't eat all of it. Well, give it to everyone else in the pub then. Everyone dines on Touchberry. Everyone, the drinks are on me, right? So he becomes once again the most popular person in the pub, and The others don't have to pay for their room and board, so there's that. At any rate, finally, the day comes, and they get word from the Count that all is prepared, and they're called that morning, and they hitch up to the wagon train, right? They don't have their horses. They never took their horses on this adventure, so they're still on foot, but they can ride on the wagons, and there are a couple of soldiers from Kilmarnock who are going with, just to guide it all up. I think I actually brought it down to 6. There were 6 soldiers that are going with them as guards and just to handle the wagons and courtiers and all that kind of stuff. So they go up a little, train of them heading up to the Shire. They're mostly in civilized lands, with well-traveled roads. They stay at an inn one night. Finally, they arrive in the Shire and they make their way up to the seat of the Shire, where the Master Sheriff has her quarters. And we don't do any of the role-playing. That's where we end the session when they arrive in town. We don't role-play the mom and the dad and the girlfriend or any of that, right? And we wait. We're paused. The dwarf is about to go. As soon as they arrive, the dwarf makes a beeline for the Master Sheriff's quarters. He is going to go and ask the Master Sheriff for permission. So we don't know. We end not knowing. Will she commit troops? Will she not? Will she accept the gift from the Count, right? Which is sort of contingent on joining the fight. What's going to happen? And, more importantly, will Touchberry's girlfriend say yes? You kind of got kicked around in this episode. Here,